Donnie and Dolly, the team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today, including Rachel Doerrie, standing by, are brought to you by the Waddling Dog Pub, one of Victoria's favorite local pubs. Located 10 minutes from the ferry terminal, the two-time #1 pub in Victoria invites you to see why they are a go-to watering hole. The Waddling Dog is the best place for all of your Canucks and NHL action with extended hours, so you don't have to miss any of the action. Come sit and stay at the Waddling Dog. Former Canucks video analyst Rachel Doerrie has filed a human rights complaint claiming the organization discriminated against her when they fired her back in September. And Rachel Doerrie joins us now. Rachel, thanks for doing this. How are you?
I've been better, but I'm okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
I think one of the questions that a lot of people are asking, Rachel, over the last couple of days, and we've seen other interviews earlier this week, why go public with this?
Honestly, I didn't really have a choice. I was told that if I filed a human rights complaint, that it's a matter of public record, and therefore it was not going to be able to be sealed, and it would be finable. So that I might as well just come out and face it head on, as opposed to filing it and trying to hide from it. And the other thing is, I don't think that you're going to get anywhere in terms of hockey culture if we continue to try and hide things. We've seen that, and it obviously doesn't work. And so for me, this is about some public accountability, quite frankly. And I just thought that I shouldn't have to be the one that bears all of this by myself.
What are your problems with hockey culture, and were they on display during your time with the Canucks?
Yeah, I don't think anybody can sit here and honestly say that hockey culture doesn't have an issue. I think that the culture of silence is really bad. I think encouraging people not to come forward is equally as bad, and trying to get them to sign NDAs and trying to silence them, I think is bad. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be doing anything that you're not afraid to take accountability for. And so for me, I don't want to say it's a systemic problem in the Canucks front office, because I don't think that's a fair characterization of a lot of really, really great people in the Canucks front office. And so I don't want anybody to mistake that for me saying that this is a systemic issue within the Canucks front office. This is an incident that it unfortunately involves me and other members of the front office. But to me, my issues with hockey culture are that there is a culture of silence, and that if you don't fall in line, then you're an outcast. And if you speak up for what you believe in, you're also an outcast. And so for me, I don't think that's a healthy working environment. It's not something that I dealt with when I was at the bank. It's not something that I think belongs in one of the greatest games on earth.
Rachel, what were your emotions like the day you were hired by the Canucks back in January, and what was it like working for the Canucks?
The emotions were memorable for sure. I remember getting the call from Jim, and then everything happened pretty quickly after that. But just to kind of I really felt like I was stepping into an organization that was going to be really positive for me. It's not a secret that I was talking with other NHL teams as well, and chose Vancouver based on my discussions with Jim Rutherford and my belief in him and what he's doing. And honestly, I still have a great deal of respect for Jim Rutherford. I've never had an issue with him, actually. He was nothing but kind to me. And so for me, like working with the Canucks, I felt that I had a really great relationship with Jim. I felt that he had my best interests at heart. And I will say, like, the people that I worked with at the analytics department, whether Aiden, Ryan, Miles, Martin, all absolutely fantastic people. And just even like touching base with like different people in management or the coaching staff, like Bruce Boudreau and his staff are some of my favorite people in hockey, and I will always be supportive of them. But the same extends to somebody like Ryan Johnson or Derek Clancy or Jeremy Colleton. And I just think that it's not fair to paint the entire organization in a negative light. And I don't want to do that, because there's a lot of people in that organization that I wish really good things for, and I wish success for, and I have nothing bad to say about.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Rachel, anybody who's concerned with this story or was interested in this story has read the human rights complaint. How would you describe your relationship with Emily Castonguay?
I think not great would be a fair way of putting that. I would encourage everybody to read the complaint and understand that that is an official complaint, and you can't lie in something like that. There are legal ramifications for doing so. But it is, I would say that based on the facts in the complaint, to paint my relationship with Emily as anything other than harmful to my mental health would be inaccurate.
Okay, you mentioned mental health, Rachel, and this is mentioned in the human rights complaint. What can you tell us about your health issues?
So I have PTSD. It stems from some pretty serious things that happened when I was younger, that I will not be speaking about publicly for a number of reasons. But I want to make clear that I never actually, I disclosed this to Jim, and I never asked for special treatment. I was assured by Jim that I would be seen by Canucks team doctors to ensure that my health remained in the positive place that it was when I took the job with the Canucks. That was it. I never asked for days off work or anything that any special accommodations, even though under the Human Rights Code, I would have been entitled to that. I never asked for anything like that. I just wanted to make sure that the good place that I was in mentally was kept that way. And I was not seen by team doctors and was not provided with those resources until basically 3 days before I was no longer working for the Canucks. And so for me, living with PTSD is very difficult. It's especially difficult when you have a heart issue that relies on basically keeping your consciousness. And so what happens is when I have some of those anxiety or panic attacks, it causes my heart to race, and therefore that triggers a cardiac episode. And so that causes damage to my heart and loss of consciousness.
Which is something that happened in Whistler, if I'm not mistaken, Rachel, which is outlined in the human rights complaint. So would you say those health issues, and you touched on it there, would you say those health issues overall were respected by the Canucks?
Overall, I absolutely believe they were. Cami Granato in particular was extremely supportive. Ryan Johnson as well. Aiden Fox was tremendous. And so I did feel supported. It's just that, I was told because I was moving to Vancouver and because of how the healthcare system in Canada works, I was going to have to change everything. And so I was told that would be provided to me, and it never was. And anybody with any kind of mental illness can understand that if you go 9 months without seeing somebody, that could be pretty detrimental to your health. And then you add in the fact that you're moving across the country and working for a National Hockey League team.
Rachel, are you done with hockey? Will you ever work in hockey again?
Honestly, Rick, right now, I don't feel comfortable working in the National Hockey League. I don't feel that the National Hockey League is a safe enough environment for people of color, for people in the LGBTQ plus community, for people with disabilities. I think we still have a long way to go. And so I don't feel safe working in a front office. Hockey media, whether it be my podcast or elsewhere, is different. But I will say that I will be nowhere near a front office for a very long time, if not for the rest of my life, because it's not somewhere that I want to be.
Rachel, you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly of Twitter. We've seen it. We get ripped all the time. Anyone on Twitter gets ripped all the time. You've seen it. You've been there. You've done that. What do you say to people that say you're a bitter employee?
I would say that you know nothing about me, and that I would encourage you to maybe say that in a fashion where I have the opportunity to actually respond. Because for me, if you look at that complaint and all you see is bitter employee, I question whether or not you actually care about people who have any type of disability, or you care about really anybody outside of yourself. I think we all, especially after what the world has gone through with the pandemic, I think everybody's patience has gotten a little less and less. And I think there's room for discourse and there's room for people to disagree with me. I'm absolutely not saying that you can't do that. But when you start doing things that paint me in a sexual light, or are DMing members of my family, or are threatening in any kind of way, I think that crosses the line. And that's not just with me. I think that's with everybody, and nobody deserves that.
Rachel, I'm sure you're aware the Canucks and Emily Castonguay have denied all these allegations, which may or may not come as a surprise. But in filing this complaint, what are you looking for from the Canucks?
One thing I'll say, Don, is I understand, and like you said, I didn't expect anything less from the Canucks. In a document that I filed, you have to tell the truth by law. And so until the Canucks file an official response in the tribunal jurisdiction, I would encourage everybody, like, we all know how PR works. And I'm not saying that the Canucks are doing one thing or another, but I would encourage people to understand that there's a difference between filing a tribunal document and filing a PR statement to the public. In terms of what I want out of this, this has never, ever been about money. If this was about money, I would have been silent and gone a long time ago. To me, this is about public accountability. In that document, I take accountability for the texts that I sent. I took accountability for it in the meeting, and I still do. But it takes two to have a relationship, and the Canucks are not willing to take any accountability for the way that they treated me. And I think that that's really, at the end of this, is what I'm looking for. Is, listen, I had my part in breaking this relationship, but so did the Canucks, and so did Emily Castonguay. And so there needs to be some accountability for that. And my ultimate hope is that by me using my voice to speak out against this kind of stuff, that it won't happen as much or at all anymore. I want hockey to be a more welcoming place. I think we all do. And so for me, the ultimate goal is to make the NHL a little bit more of a welcoming environment for people, because there are a lot of really great people in this game and a lot of really great people in the Canucks front office. And I think that when there is something like this that happens, the only way that we're going to get better is if we talk about it.
And Rachel, one more, if you don't mind. You say hockey is not in your future, at least not in your immediate future. So what would be in your future?
I can't really get into what I'm doing now. I have been asked not to.
Okay.
But what I will say is I don't want to work in a front office. I'm not opposed to hockey media. I think, as stated in the document, I have a lot of friends in media, and I appreciate how everyone has handled this. I know it can be very tough when you're having to report on somebody who's potentially your friend. And so for me, hockey media is not out of the question. But honestly, whether I decide to do law school, get a PhD, or work in the other sport that I'm so deeply passionate about, even go back to the bank, I have a lot of options in my future. And so for me, walking away from working in a hockey front office was not something that I was afraid of. And truthfully, Don and Rick, I made the decision prior to taking the job with the Canucks that if this didn't go well and I didn't feel like it was a positive environment for me, that I was not going to work in hockey anymore, because it was not going to be good for me as a human being. And at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Yeah, I know soccer's the other sport that you're a big fan of. Rachel, I know this was tough. Thank you very much for doing it. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, and thanks, Rick, as well.